The illusion of wealth. You open your phone every morning and look at the Forbes billionaire list. You see the tech geniuses, the e-commerce tycoons. They own $100 million mega yachts. They grace magazine covers. They tweet every day to manipulate the markets. You call that power? No. That is merely the ostentation of new money. Their wealth consists of digits on a screen, chained to stock prices, monitored by the SEC, and capable of evaporating overnight in a single market panic. Real power doesn't work that way. Real power never leaves fingerprints. It doesn't have a social media account, and it despises the sunlight. Forget the self-help finance books. Today, I am putting you through the most ruthless masterclass of capitalism. You are no longer you. You are Mayor Amschel, and you are about to learn how to build a financial dynasty that rules Europe for 3 centuries. These are the 7 levels of hidden power. Level 1. The money changer. The year is 1760, the Frankfurt slums. You own no citizenship. The gates to your street are chained shut every Sunday and on Catholic holidays. The outside world despises you. You own no land. You command no army. The only thing you are allowed to touch is what the aristocracy considers dirty, the exchanging of money. Every day, thousands of merchants travel across Europe carrying various coins, florins, ducats, thalers, and at level 1, you discover a massive flaw in human nature. They do not understand the true value of what they hold in their hands. You bite the coins, you listen to the sound they make when dropped, you know the exact gold and silver content of every worn-out piece of metal. You profit from that ignorance. But flipping loose change doesn't build an empire. You start collecting the rarest, most pristine antique coins. You package them beautifully and send them to the castle of Crown Prince Wilhelm, the ruler of the region and one of the wealthiest men in Europe. You sell them to him for pennies. You even take a loss. The poor folks in the slums laugh at you. They call you a terrible businessman. But they are wrong. You aren't selling money. You are executing a subtle bribe. You are buying the attention of the crown. Eventually, the prince hands you the management of his immense fortune. You realize your first universal truth. Your money is limited, but the money of those in power is infinite.
Level 2. The Ghost Network. Your empire is swelling, but Europe is drowning in the fires of the Napoleonic Wars. How do you transport tons of gold across war-torn borders without being robbed? You don't transport gold. You transport paper. You send your 5 sons to the 5 greatest financial centers of Europe. They are independent branches, but they share the same bloodroot. Their storefronts all hang a red shield, the symbol of your family. You invent the world's first cross-border clearing system. A nobleman deposits gold with your son in London and receives a signed piece of paper. He takes that paper to Paris, hands it to another of your sons, and withdraws the gold. To highway robbers, that paper is trash, but within your network, it is worth millions of pounds. Yet that is not your most terrifying weapon. You realize gold travels slowly, but information must travel fast. You establish a private intelligence network that outpaces every government. You use speedboats with the most reckless sailors to cross the English Channel in raging storms. You use carrier pigeons carrying coded messages written in Hebrew. You know a coup has happened, a treaty has been signed, a kingdom has fallen, before the sitting king even receives the news. At level 2, your mindset evolves. He who controls the cash flow is strong, but he who controls the speed of information writes the rules of the game. Level 3, the War Profiteer. The Battle of Waterloo, the battle that will decide the fate of Europe. Emperor Napoleon faces Britain's Duke of Wellington. All of Britain holds its breath. If Britain loses, the economy will collapse. British government bonds will become waste paper. Your intelligence network pierces the fog of war. An agent delivers a secret message to your hands in London. Wellington has won. Britain is safe. You receive this news a full 24 hours before the royal government's own messengers. If you were an ordinary man, you would cheer and buy bonds immediately. But no, you are a wolf. You step onto the London trading floor. Every eye locks onto you. They know how powerful your intelligence network is. You remain completely silent, and you signal your brokers. Sell. The floor erupts. Rothschild is selling. Britain is lost. Panic spreads like a plague. Men trample each other to dump their bonds at rock-bottom prices. The market chart plummets into the abyss. And in that absolute moment of peak terror, through dozens of anonymous, faceless agents, you buy it all back. You sweep up every bond on the market for the price of dirt. The next day, the royal officer gallops into London, bringing the official news of victory. Bond prices shoot straight to the moon. In a single quiet afternoon, your family has essentially bought the entire economy of the British Empire. At level 3, you master the most ruthless rule of Wall Street, long before Wall Street even existed. The time to buy is when there's blood in the streets.
Level 4. Sovereign Creditor. Your dynasty has grown too large to be contained in retail banks. You stop lending to individuals. That game is too small. You begin lending to nations. Kings, emperors, they have armies, they have territory, they have guns, but they do not have liquidity. Britain wants to buy shares in the Suez Canal to control the global sea route. The British Prime Minister must knock on your door and borrow £4 million in a single afternoon. Nations want to modernize. You are the one writing the checks to build the first railways cutting across the European continent. You finance both sides of the front lines. You fix the global price of gold every morning from your office in London. Nations have borders. Debt does not. A general can command 100,000 troops, but if your family freezes their credit line, that army will starve to death before the first shot is fired. Your power at level 4 isn't measured by sitting on a throne. Your power is measured by this. Whoever sits on the throne owes you money. Level 5. The Blood Fortress. Money brings power, but it also breeds greed. You recognize a fatal threat. An empire doesn't fall from outside enemies, it crumbles from within, through divorces, greedy sons-in-law, and prodigal bears. You draft a will that dictates the next 200 years, a life sentence for your own blood. Rule number 1. Only male descendants carrying the Rothschild name are allowed to participate in the core business. Wives, daughters, and sons-in-law are entirely wiped from the secret ledgers. Rule number 2. Never publicly disclose the true extent of the wealth to the courts or the public. And rule number 3, the coldest, most ruthless rule of all. Intermarriage. To prevent the wealth from being fragmented and falling into the hands of outsiders. Your granddaughters must marry their cousins, sometimes even their uncles. You accept the biological risks. You accept the personal tragedies of the children in your family. All to protect one single thing, the capital structure. Money moves from the left pocket to the right pocket, but it never, ever leaves the house bearing the red shield. At level 5, you reach the absolute pinnacle of discipline. The preservation of capital is far more important than human freedom.
Level 6. The Invisible Hand. The world enters the 20th century. 2 world wars devastate Europe. Wealth taxes skyrocket. The era of mega public banks like JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs explodes. The public begins to ask, where are the Rothschilds? Have they faded away? You smile in the dark. Decline in the eyes of others is your most perfect camouflage. You voluntarily step out of the spotlight. You divest from loud public retail banking. You restructure your wealth into thousands of blind trusts and anonymous holding companies scattered across tax havens. You pivot to private wealth management, M&A advisory, and debt restructuring. When the 2008 financial crisis hits, Wall Street CEOs are torn apart by the media. They are cursed at, called bloodsuckers. They lose sleep. They face prison time. And you are still sitting in a quiet, oak-paneled room in Paris or Geneva. You collect astronomical advisory fees to help those very same collapsing banks restructure their debt. Not a single newspaper prints your name. At level 6, you understand. Fame is a massive legal liability. Invisibility is the most liquid asset of all. Level 7. The cycle. Finally, at level 7, you are no longer a person. You become an idea. You become the center of every conspiracy theory on the internet. People say you control the weather, fund secret societies, and orchestrate the new world order. Do you step out to clear your name? No, you let them whisper, because those wild conspiracy theories are the perfect smokescreen hiding the most boring yet terrifying truth about your empire. You don't need to pull the strings of the world like a movie villain. You only need to apply the relentless power of compound interest and asset protection for 8 consecutive generations. The metric of success for the fools outside is how much did our profits grow this quarter? Your metric is, will this capital survive 3 more world wars and feed the next 5 generations? The cycle begins again. That newborn child will grow up. He won't learn how to hustle or post motivational quotes online. He will relearn the very first lesson from the mud of the Judengasse. Silence, discipline, and always remember, money, IPOs, and billionaire titles only create the newly rich. Only time and ruthlessness create a dynasty.